welcome to this segment of Auto News Talk. You probably think the badge on your steering wheel tells you exactly who made your car.
Right, yeah.
And you probably think that same company is the one who's going to rescue you if it breaks down on the highway.
It's a natural assumption. I mean, it's their logo.
Exactly. But what if I told you that the fate of your vehicle is actually controlled by these massive, invisible third-party systems that you will literally never see?
It really completely changes how you view the whole industry, because we are looking at a landscape that is defined entirely by hidden lifelines. The front-facing brands, the ones we all know, they're just the tip of the iceberg. And they're sitting on top of this incredibly fragile foundation.
So on this segment, we're taking a journey. We're going to trace the unseen life cycle of the modern vehicle.
Starting right at the physical foundation, I assume?
Yeah, exactly. We'll start at the absolute physical foundation. So raw materials and local service base. Then we're going to get those vehicles out on the road to explore the hidden vulnerabilities that emerge when things inevitably break down.
Which they always do.
Always. And finally, we will end at the digital frontier, unpacking how over-the-air software is attempting to just, bypass the physical world entirely.
Let's start with that physical foundation then, because when we look at how cars are built, automakers are highly vulnerable at the very beginning of the supply chain.
Like upstream.
Right, upstream. There is a fascinating analysis looking at Ford's pickup output, and the central insight there is that a disruption at a primary raw material processor ripples across multiple brands far more severely than, say, a localized component strike.
Yeah, I was reading through this, and the report zooms in on the Novelis aluminum rolling plant in upstate New York.
Right, the one that had the fires?
Exactly, multiple fires that forced it offline for months. And, I like to compare auto manufacturing to a bakery. Doesn't matter how many master bakers you have on staff, if the flour mill down the road burns down. Yeah.
That's a perfect analogy. You literally have nothing to work with.
Right. But I understand that a factory fire is bad, obviously. But why is this one specific plant causing such an incredible bottleneck for Ford's F-150 and their Super Duty trucks?
Well, we have to look at the mechanics of what this plant actually does. We aren't just talking about melting scrap metal in a big vat.
Okay.
Rolling aluminum for automotive body panels requires massive, highly specialized machinery. It's pressing these specific alloys into millimeter-thin sheets. So when that structural capacity disappears, you can't just source a microchip from a different vendor.
Right, you can't just swap it out.
No, you fundamentally cannot stamp the doors or the hoods. You just don't have the metal.
So it's not like missing a piece of plastic trim where you can build the truck, park it in a lot, and install the trim later. Without the rolled aluminum, the truck just doesn't exist.
Which is why the analysis makes a really memorable comparison. It notes that this upstream disruption at the raw material level was far more severe and difficult to navigate than the United Auto Workers' action at a GM axle supplier.
Oh, wow. So a material shortage beats a labor strike.
In this case, yeah. An axle supplier strike can be resolved with temporary workarounds or, relying on stockpiles. But raw rolling capacity, that is foundational. If you don't have it, you stop.
And without that domestic supply, automakers were forced to import aluminum just to keep the assembly lines moving. But that triggers a whole cascade of secondary issues, right?
No, absolutely. The report mentions massive added expenses linked to tariffs, and then you combine that with geopolitical conflicts in the Middle East, which are disrupting global shipping markets.
Right, so it's a compounding effect.
Exactly. The cost of simply acquiring the foundational metal just skyrocketed. And why this matters so much to the industry is that full-size pickups are the absolute core profit engines of the U.S. automotive market.
They fund everything else.
They really do. Now that the Novelis plant is restarting, returning that domestic capacity gives automakers a pathway to reduce those input costs and finally normalize their chaotic factory schedules.
But, there is a glaring limitation in the reporting here.
Yeah.
What this analysis doesn't answer is the downstream effect on the consumer.
Right, the actual buyer.
Yeah, it remains entirely unclear exactly when these visible inventory improvements will actually hit the dealership lots.
Well, because even when the aluminum plant turns the lights back on, you can't just teleport those finished trucks to the dealership. Ford has a massive backlog of half-finished vehicles.
Just sitting there waiting.
Yeah, and you have complex production sequencing, you've got rail transport bottlenecks, and pent-up dealer demand that they have to prioritize first. You probably won't see relief on the lot for months.
Which perfectly brings us to the hyper-local side of the equation. Let's say those trucks finally make it to the dealership lot and somebody actually buys one. Who is going to keep it running?
That is the million-dollar question.
Right, because we have a massive shortage of mechanics. Once the truck leaves the factory, it relies entirely on local labor.
And it is a critical bottleneck. Another report we're looking at highlights a localized education initiative that addresses this mechanic shortage head-on.
Okay, what are they doing?
The core takeaway from this piece is that localized earn-while-you-learn apprenticeships are really the key to fixing the acute technician pipeline.
I saw this. This report focuses on a partnership between Mississippi Gulf Coast Community College and the J. Allen Automotive Group. But my question is, why is this special? I mean, aren't there always vocational schools and trade programs?
There are, but what sets this apart is the integration. They didn't just build a classroom, they created a paid program that blends traditional instruction with supervised live work in professional service bays.
So they're actually working on real cars right away.
Yeah, they are moving the ramp-up training directly into the college program. The dealers are actually helping train and vet the candidates, ensuring the skills perfectly match the diagnostic tools and workflows used in a modern shop.
There's a quote from Jonathan Allen in the piece that really underscores the desperation out there. He points out the dealership-wide shortage of diesel techs, making programs like this carry, quote, extreme value.
Extreme value. Yeah, that phrasing says a lot.
It really does. If you are representing Toyota, Ford, and Mazda, you need people physically turning wrenches on incredibly complex machines. You can't just hire someone off the street.
Exactly. And why this model matters is that it builds a reliable, wage-supported workforce pipeline tailored directly to local dealership needs without forcing students to sacrifice income.
That's huge.
Right. They get paid while they build skills, which keeps them enrolled instead of dropping out to take a minimum wage job just to pay rent.
I do want to point out a limitation in the source, though. While they really celebrated these apprentices moving into full-time roles, the specific details regarding cohort size, the exact wages being paid, and the precise timelines for the program were not disclosed.
Yeah, they kept the numbers pretty vague.
Right, so we are left guessing on the actual scale of the impact. Like, is this 5 students or 50?
The operational financials are definitely kept close to the vest. But it proves that fixing vehicles requires intensely local solutions.
So let's take that concept, fixing vehicles, and move out of the service bay and onto the highway. Because we've talked about what happens when you don't have the mechanics to fix a truck, but what happens when the local environment itself is what's destroying the truck.
Oh, this is fascinating. We see this vividly in a safety bulletin outlining a massive vehicle recall.
Right.
The main insight here is that region-specific environmental factors, when they're combined with slight manufacturing variations, they create massive safety liabilities.
Yeah. The bulletin details Honda and Acura recalling roughly 880,000 SUVs and pickups. This covers the Pilot, the Passport, Ridgeline, and MDX.
A lot of cars?
A ton of cars. And the mechanics of the failure are terrifying. It stems from the rear subframes being manufactured with improper coating specifications.
Right. To understand the physics here, the paint adhesion near a specific arm bracket weld was simply insufficient.
Just bad paint.
Essentially, yeah. And on its own, if you live in a dry climate like Arizona, that might never be an issue. It would just sit there. But in the presence of winter moisture, it leads to premature peeling.
And here is where the piece gets incredibly specific, which I think is the most memorable detail from the bulletin. This recall is restricted strictly to 22 Salt Belt states and Washington, D.C.
Just those states?
Just those states. Why?
Yeah.
Purely because of the chloride-based deicers used on their winter roads.
Yeah, and chloride-based deicers are fundamentally different from traditional rock salt. They stay liquid at much lower temperatures.
Meaning they splash up into the undercarriage.
Exactly. They splash up and seep deep into the microfissures of that improper paint coating. The salt water acts as an electrolyte, accelerating galvanic corrosion on the exposed metal. It literally thins the metal at the suspension mounting points.
And the implication is severe. If that advancing corrosion causes a fracture, your rear suspension can completely drop out at highway speeds.
Just detach?
Yeah, you are facing a catastrophic loss of vehicle control.
To remedy this, dealers will inspect the assembly and either install a reinforcement kit or replace the components entirely for free. But the bulletin leaves an incredibly frustrating open question.
I think I know where you're going with this.
What happens to you if your car isn't registered in the Salt Belt, but you've spent significant time driving there?
Right. If your car is registered in Florida, but you spend every single winter driving through New York road salt, you might be entirely outside the financial protection of the recall.
It's a huge loophole. A dealer can do a visual assessment, sure, but the free recall repairs are strictly authorized only for vehicles covered by the campaign's geographic net.
Okay, so put yourself in that exact scenario. You hit a pothole in a snowy state, that corroded suspension snaps, and you are stranded on the side of the highway. What is your first move?
Well, I pull out my phone and call the 1-800 number on my brand's warranty card.
Right.
I look at the logo on my steering wheel, and I assume the automaker or my local dealership is dispatching a truck to come save me.
And that expectation brings us to a really deep industry analysis piece, which reveals that your assumption is largely an illusion.
An illusion?
Yeah. The central insight here is that dealership finance and insurance products, which includes roadside assistance, are actually run by hidden operators, creating a dangerous structural blind spot for the automakers.
This analysis completely blew my mind.
Right. I like to compare it to ordering from a ghost kitchen on a food delivery app. You think you're ordering from a fancy local Italian restaurant, but your food is actually being cooked in a massive, windowless warehouse shared by 10 different fake restaurant brands.
That is a brilliant way to conceptualize it. A consumer-facing automaker markets the roadside assistance product. They sell it to you in the finance and insurance office when you buy the car.
Taking all the credit.
Yep. But a totally separate, behind-the-scenes, white-label operator is the one running the call centers, managing the dispatch platforms, and adjudicating the claims.
And the risk really materializes during the corporate bidding process. When automakers put out bids, what they call requests for proposals, to find these operators, the procurement teams usually evaluate the front-end brand's marketing and pricing.
Oh, so they just look at the shiny brochure?
Exactly. They completely ignore the back-end operator's financial stability or true dispatch capabilities.
And when failures happen when you are waiting 4 hours on the shoulder of the highway in the snow, accountability completely diffuses, you, the customer, will blame the automaker.
You'll be furious at them.
Right. You will scream at the dealership that sold you the car. You have no idea that an unseen third-party operator is the one who actually failed to send a truck.
The data point in the article that really underscores this vulnerability relates specifically to electric vehicles. It notes a stunning statistic. 95% of EV roadside calls involve range depletion, not a mechanical failure.
And you cannot just put a dead EV in neutral and drag it with a traditional hook and chain tow truck. That destroys the electric motors.
It wrecks them. It requires specific flatbed-only transport.
Exactly. And the white label dispatchers are just looking at a screen, assigning the cheapest available local tower who shows up without a flatbed and can't do the job.
Right. They just send whoever is closest.
Yeah. Many of these unseen operators simply have not adapted their provider networks to guarantee flatbed capacity. Why this matters is obvious. Wait times and botched rescues directly destroy brand trust.
People will just swear off the brand forever.
Oh, absolutely. Now, the article makes a very strong argument for what it calls operator-level transparency in those corporate requests for proposals. Dealerships need to ask, who is actually dispatching the truck?
That makes sense.
However, what this analysis doesn't answer is how quickly or willingly the industry will actually adapt its procurement strategies. Consolidating vendor contracts is complex, and adding transparency metrics is a massive corporate headache.
So if the physical hardware is vulnerable to aluminum fires and road salt, and the physical rescue network is a white-labeled illusion, it makes total sense that automakers are trying to bypass the physical world entirely.
Which brings us to our final stop, the digital frontier. Automakers are turning cars into rolling computers, aiming to elevate the experience and fix problems through over-the-air software updates.
Yeah, I read this report on Lucid's latest EV software rollout, and it highlights a massive contradiction.
How so?
Well, buying a modern high-end EV is a bit like buying a multi-million-dollar mansion, but the builder legally locks the doors so you are only allowed to use the kitchen.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, the car is physically capable of doing so much more, but the software refuses to let you.
That tension is perfectly captured here. The main takeaway from the Lucid report is that automakers are successfully elevating everyday usability via over-the-air updates, but they're deliberately keeping a tight leash on legal autonomy.
So we're looking at the Lucid Gravity SUV. Lucid is rolling out an update in North America that adds a hands-free highway assist feature called DreamDrive 2 Pro.
Sounds fancy.
It is. It automates steering, speed control, braking, and even automatic lane changes to pass slower traffic. The update also integrates Google Maps directly into the dash for better routing and adds adaptive lighting that dynamically shades portions of the high beams to avoid blinding oncoming traffic.
The mechanism of delivery is what matters most here, though. This entire package is delivered over the air, beamed via cell towers while the vehicle is parked in your driveway.
So you literally wake up to a better car.
Exactly, completely bypassing the dealership service bay. It proves automakers can dramatically improve complex automation remotely, aligning a new vehicle's capabilities with flagship models without a mechanic ever touching it.
But going back to that mansion analogy, the memorable detail in the source is the massive hardware contradiction. The Gravity SUV is physically stacked with a sensor suite built for full Level 3 autonomy.
It has the hardware ready to go.
Oh yeah, we are talking 12 exterior cameras, 5 radars, and a highly advanced LiDAR system bouncing lasers off the environment.
Yet the software update strictly keeps the vehicle classified as SAE Level 2.
Right. Meaning continuous driver supervision is absolutely mandatory. You might have your hands off the wheel, but you're still legally driving the car.
So why wouldn't Lucid just flip the switch and let the car drive itself if it has all the cameras to do it?
It comes down to liability, not technological capability. Level 3 means the vehicle assumes legal responsibility in certain conditions.
Oh, so the blame shifts.
Exactly. If a Level 2 car crashes, your insurance pays. If a Level 3 car crashes, the manufacturer's insurance pays. Lucid's approach here aligns with the broader strategy of expanding supervised highway automation rather than shifting that massive legal liability onto their own books.
That makes total business sense.
It does. But as impressive as the update is, the report leaves several massive blank spots. Lucid disclosed no pricing details for the feature, no subscription requirements, and absolutely no timeline or schedule for when that Level 3 certification might actually happen.
Just silence on that front.
Yep. So you have a car packed with incredibly expensive sensors, just waiting for the corporate lawyers to catch up.
Wow. You know, if we step back and synthesize the landscape we've just traveled, 3 powerful themes really emerge from across these sources. The first is the sheer vulnerability of hidden nodes.
Yes, the things you don't see dictate the success of the major consumer brands. Like we saw, Ford's entire pickup production was choked by an upstream aluminum plant fire in New York.
Right.
And then the reputation of luxury brands rests on the dispatch networks of hidden white-label roadside operators.
The second theme is the overarching impact of hyperlocal realities. Auto manufacturing is a global business, but local environments dictate industry moves. We see this in the hyper-specific salt belt recall from Honda,
where chloride deicers literally rewrite the safety equation of a vehicle.
Exactly. And we see it in the Mississippi diesel tech pipeline, where an acute local labor shortage forced a community college and a dealer group to invent a new earn while you learn model just to keep local service bays functioning.
The third theme is the rapidly evolving definition of a fix. Contrast the physical, hands-on wrench turning required by those diesel apprentices in Mississippi with the invisible, over-the-air software upgrades beamed into the Lucid Gravity.
It's like 2 different worlds.
It really is. The industry is straddling 2 completely different eras of maintenance simultaneously.
Which perfectly highlights some major tensions. There is a massive contradiction between physical hardware and operational reality. You have Lucid's Gravity packed with Level 3 sensors, but locked behind Level 2 software limits because of legal fears.
And on the flip side, you have the EV roadside assistance gap, where incredibly advanced electric vehicles are stranded simply because an unseen operator lacks a physical flatbed truck.
Another core tension is brand perception versus true accountability. Automakers constantly absorb the blame for things they do not fully control. Ford suffers the market consequences of an independent aluminum supplier's fire.
Yeah, that's wild.
Or a local dealership loses a loyal customer because a white-label roadside operator failed to dispatch a tow truck. The badge on the grill takes the hit regardless of who is actually at fault.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener? The practical takeaway here is that the badge on your steering wheel is really just a marketing concept.
It's just a logo.
Right. The true quality, safety, and reliability of your driving experience is dictated by unseen raw material processors, invisible warranty adjudicators, and the lines of code beamed to your driveway while you sleep.
The next time you turn the key or, push the start button, remember that you aren't just driving a car. You're driving the end result of 1,000 fragile, invisible compromises.
That is perfectly said. Keep an eye on the fine print on your next vehicle purchase, especially who actually operates your roadside assistance plan. It might just save you from being stranded in the snow waiting for a truck that doesn't exist. That wraps up this segment of Auto News Talk. Thanks for joining us.